The casino lights flickered in time with a racing heartbeat as Dominic Vega, the kingpin of a gambling empire, delivered a shocking slap to his pregnant wife in the very center of the Bellagio, beneath the wide-eyed stares of every guest. Have you ever wondered how many dark secrets power can conceal? Will Chloe, the courageous mother-to-be, summon the strength to expose her husband's criminal conspiracy? If you're ready to uncover this pulse-pounding journey between glamour and truth, hit subscribe now and drop a comment telling us where and what time you're watching this video. Night descended like the somber velvet curtain, cloaking every corner of the opulent penthouse on the top floor. Chloe sat quietly by the towering glass window, where the distant lights of Las Vegas glittered like shattered gold dust. The window stood ajar, allowing the June breeze to drift in, carrying the faint scent of cigarette smoke and the lingering warmth of a whiskey glass left on the shelf. The silence was so profound that the beating of her heart sounded like thunder across an endless ocean. Her swollen hand pressed gently to her cheek, as if still bearing the imprint of that brutal slap, evoking a shame too deep for words. Chloe's eyes followed the beam of light cast upon the bookshelf, where meticulously arranged ledgers lay in neat rows. Every number, every chart she had pored over for months, now danced before her like unanswered questions. The glittering facade of Dominic's casino empire seemed only a finely crafted mask that cloaked a vast web of illegality she could no longer ignore. The weight of her dual roles, wife and financial manager, weighed heavily upon her. This betrayal wounded more than her emotions. It threatened her honor and the future of the life growing inside her. Slowly, Chloe rose and stepped toward her desk. The plush white rug beneath her feet seemed to swallow each footstep. She reached for the desk lamp and turned it on, its soft glow illuminating her bank statements. Her inner analyst jolted at the discovery of unusual transactions. Funds routed through a string of shell companies in Panama, only to reappear in Las Vegas via anonymous accounts. Each line of data felt like a dagger piercing her heart, igniting a fire in her veins yet failing to thaw the chill in her chest. She paused, staring at the spreadsheet on her laptop, and the memory of Dominic's calculating gaze from last night surged back. It was no longer the affectionate look of a husband, but one of appraisal, measuring her potential punishment for daring to question him. The flashes from the casino floor earlier that evening echoed in her mind, a camouflage for the cruelty lurking beneath the glittering surface. Chloe sensed her heartbeat quicken. Every pulse was an alarm sounding within her. Drawing in a deep breath, she fought to steady the tremor within. With each day her baby grew, she felt its tiny heartbeat prop her up, an invisible call to strength. "If I do nothing, we will drown in this charade," she told herself. Maternal love surged fiercely, washing away her private fears. She moved to the liquor cabinet, her hand trembling as she selected a bottle of red wine, not to drink, but to sharpen her resolve, a ritual of courage. Draping a silk robe over her shoulders, Chloe savored the cool caress of satin against her skin. She eased open a drawer and withdrew a small USB drive, the repository of covertly copied internal files and reports. The warm amber light pooled across the wooden desk, where the drives lay alongside a luxury pen, everything neatly arranged for a silent, no-gun investigation. Settling back into her armchair, Chloe bent forward, her eyes alight with determination. She began sorting the files chronologically, from her initial profit review assignment to the moment Dominic forbade her access to key records. Between those entries lay the void where love and trust had evaporated, replaced by suspicion and fear. Her legs curled beneath her, as though she wanted to disappear from her husband's power play. But the memory of her unborn child's laughter steeled her resolve. She would not allow violence to stand unchallenged. Once more, she rose and approached the window, her gaze fixed on the city lights, the neon labyrinth that never sleeps. Yet those same lights testified to resilience, shining defiantly through the endless night. She whispered, "You cannot extinguish the truth." In that instant, her mind flared with a plan. She would reach out to the one person who could help, Jackson Cruz, the private investigator renowned for unraveling complex financial crimes. Her fingers flew over her phone, opening a notes app and typing his number and a brief message. "Jackson, I need to see you urgently. It's serious." The screen blinked with the confirmation, and in that moment, Chloe was no longer alone amidst the glittering masses. She felt her own breath synchronize with the tiny, rhythmic beating within her, a reminder that she fought not only for herself, but for a new life. As the deep night grew darker, the penthouse settled into silence. Chloe gazed at the small wedding portrait on the shelf, two beaming faces from happier days. She managed a bittersweet smile. She once believed in boundless love, unaware that the deepest pain could come from closest kin. Yet now, alone atop this pinnacle of splendor, she had awakened. All the grandeur was ephemeral, while justice and safety were the only enduring truths. With that fiery look of determination, she turned back to her desk, ready to expose the darkness lurking beneath this lavish roof. Drop your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep following these inspiring stories. What city are you watching from? Let us know. Night had deepened, and the hallway lights of the building felt as chilly as a scattering of shattered stars along the walls. Dominic Vega stepped into his private office, power still thrumming through his veins. His polished leather briefcase snapped shut with a crisp click, sealing off the clandestine world he ruled. The crystal chandelier's glow cascaded onto his desk, spilled glints dancing across the glossy wood, reflecting the silhouette of a man both proud and profoundly secretive. Dominic moved toward the recessed safe, where stacks of covert transaction files were arranged in neat piles. His fingertips traced the cool metal lid, a familiar sensation, like a whispered reminder. The deeper the secret, the greater the power. He opened the safe and withdrew a collection of forged contracts, names of shell companies in Panama layered like an intricate jigsaw puzzle. Flipping briskly through each page, eyes scanning false signatures and phantom figures, he murmured to himself, "Chloe must never know this place exists." His deft concealment of wrongdoing convinced him he was always one step ahead. The hidden chamber smelled of printer ink and oak, a private library preserving the dark underbelly of his casino empire. Dominic returned each folder to its precise slot, tapped the safe door twice, and spun around with an air of effortless authority. He recalled Chloe's sharp gaze at last night's gathering, the momentary shock when she was struck. A mere reminder to keep her silent, he told himself. Yet a flicker of unease pricked him. Could Chloe's razor-sharp instincts betray his perfect facade? His footsteps echoed along the long corridor leading to the maintenance wing, where Maggie, the young staffer, quietly observed every movement. Maggie hadn't stumbled upon those late-night document runs by chance. She was resourceful enough to notice the irregularities, contracts absent from the main system and black folders slipping through the service door. Each time she recalled the cold glare Dominic gave her when she lingered at the safe's entrance, a fire sparked in her chest, mingled with fear. If I stay silent, I'm complicit in his crimes. If I speak up, who will protect me? The hallway lights dimmed, a chill breeze drifting through a slightly opened window, carrying distant sounds from the casino floor, chips clattering, slot coins rattling, forced laughter echoing faintly. Dominic paused outside Maggie's door, his eyes gliding over the security control panel. He curved his lips into a self-assured smirk, confident every vulnerability was sealed. Yet inside, his mind whispered, "Power is an invisible force strong enough to silence the weak." With that, His footsteps faded into darkness, leaving only the corridor's hushed confession. Everyone has a breaking point. It's whether they dare to cross it. Maggie stood rooted behind the door, attuned to every hushed noise within the building's heart. She remembered the friendly smile Dominic offered by day, polished, reassuring to the staff. But under the cover of night, he was ruthless, treating employees and loved ones like pawns. Her heart hammered, legs trembling. The blinking lights of the console flashed across her anxious yet resolute eyes. In that moment, Maggie wondered, if I don't speak, Chloe may never know peace again. Not far away, Dominic sank into the leather sofa in his lounge, lifting a glass of bourbon to his lips. The warmth slid down his throat, momentarily easing his tension. Yet as the amber liquid fell halfway, his mind flickered to Chloe alone in the penthouse, her red-painted hand still swollen from that slap. He told himself, Chloe must stay silent for her own safety, and the baby's. The inner tug-of-war between instinctual love and his hunger for power hurt more than any blow he had dealt. At that very instant, Maggie resolved to step out of the shadows. Silently, she retrieved her phone, opened the pre-composed message to Chloe. I need to see you immediately. This is urgent. Her fingers trembled, yet her gaze burned steadier than ever. The corridor fell silent, save for Maggie's soft footsteps, bridges between truth and deception, light and a night thick with conspiracy. Even Dominic in all his might could not face those secrets alone. In the quiet hallway, Maggie pressed her back to the cold wall and drew a deep breath. She knew her words could ignite the entire building, or end her career, perhaps even her life. Yet between the casino's glaring brilliance and that hushed darkness, Maggie chose courage. For when the mighty subdue the meek with invisible force, only someone daring to speak can shatter the circle of crime. And so the story continued, its steps cautious and silent, but unstoppable. At the hallway's end, the penthouse door cracked open, ready to welcome an unexpected ally, one who would stand with Chloe to unmask the network of illicit deeds lurking in the dark. Night was settling in, and the streetlights beyond the quiet Las Vegas suburb flickered like fleeting stars, leaving soft trails of light on the silent pavement. Chloe sat alone in her car, hidden behind a cluster of trees next to the time-worn cafe where they had arranged to meet. A gentle evening breeze slipped through the cracked window, carrying the rich aroma of freshly roasted coffee into the cabin. She relaxed her shoulders, struggling to calm the rapid heartbeat that still thundered from last night's unjust slap echoing in her mind. One hand brushed lightly over her pregnant belly, where a fragile heartbeat pulsed with hope and responsibility. Each touch lent her strength, yet sharpened her lingering fear. If he discovers what I'm doing, not only I, but my innocent child will be drawn into his web of crime. Chloe opened the door and stepped out, the cool ground pressing against her bare heels through her fragile high heels. She pulled her long coat tighter around her shoulders as a chill wind swept in. The red brick path to the cafe lay under a canopy of trees, lit only by a solitary amber lantern swinging on the porch, its nostalgic glow barely masking the distant roar of the city. Her footsteps echoed softly on the old wooden floors, each step sounding heavy and drawn out. She glanced over her shoulder, ensuring she hadn't been followed. Her heart pounded fiercely, yet it was no longer pure terror. It was the steely resolve to confront the truth. Inside the cafe, Jackson Cruz sat waiting in a worn leather armchair by the window. He offered a slight nod to the barista, then turned to meet Chloe's entrance with a measured, probing gaze. His dark hair, swept back, framed a face both seasoned and weary, the telltale signs of countless financial investigations behind him. Jackson said nothing, simply gesturing for her to sit. The golden light bathed his eyes in trust, laced with caution, silently assuring her, You will not face this battle alone. Chloe approached, her pulse racing with the weight of last night's wounds. She sank into the chair, exhaled softly, and produced a USB drive from her small leather purse, the key to unveiling her husband's crimes. The metal glinted coldly under the dim light. With trembling fingers, she set it on the table and rested her other hand on the armchair. The atmosphere pressed down on her like a leaden cloak, tempting her to sink back into fear. Nevertheless, she squared her shoulders and met Jackson's gaze. In her eyes burned the fierce resolve of a mother, one fighting not only for herself, but for the tiny life growing day by day. Leaning forward, Jackson retrieved the USB and plugged it into the laptop on the table. Instantly, folders appeared. Internal reports, auxiliary funds, shell company records. His hand danced over the touchpad as a sudden profit chart popped onto the screen, followed by lines of VBA code and encrypted bank accounts. He lifted his eyes to Chloe. This isn't a routine discrepancy. He's routing funds between casinos through shell entities, then laundering it via a fake charity. I've seen similar cases, but never on this scale. His voice was low, yet every syllable resonated in her chest. Her legs twitched as though she might bolt at any second. Chloe stared at the display, every figure a damning indictment she could not refute. She recalled Dominic's cold warning, never to dig into event expenses, now exposed as a smokescreen for illicit transfers. His cruelty extended beyond physical violence into finely tuned manipulation, turning her, someone who had devoted her expertise and love, into a pawn in his power game. Jackson scrolled further until he uncovered an encrypted audio file. He clicked play, and the room filled with Dominic's confident, velvety voice. Prepare to transfer $5 million to the charity at 2:00 a.m. on May 12th, then move the entire sum into an anonymous European account. Chloe closed her eyes. For a moment her heart stopped, then burst into a silent tear. Betrayal, deception, and pain overwhelmed her. But beneath it all flickered a slow thrill, for the evidence was undeniable. She bit her lip, steadying her trembling frame, inhaling deeply to keep from sobbing. Jackson paused the playback and nodded at her. We have enough leads to launch the investigation. We'll need on-site support for security footage, original transaction records, and insider testimony. Chloe gazed out the window at the city lights, imagining justice cutting through the darkness of vice. She vowed that, despite the dangers ahead, she would not retreat. To do so would bury both the truth and the little life she carried in everlasting shadow. Rising with newfound hope and unwavering resolve, Chloe watched as Jackson packed his gear and handed her contact numbers and an investigator's referral. They left the silent cafe behind them, the lingering scent of coffee and the faint glow of the yellow lamp receding in their wake. Beyond, the sleepless city still posed formidable challenges, but Chloe knew she no longer stood alone. The night in Las Vegas might be relentless, yet the dawn of truth was breaking, ready to illuminate every hidden corner. And she, fueled by the fierce flame of her maternal instinct, would press forward to expose her husband's deeds and safeguard her unborn child's future. Roxanne stepped out of the lounge into the golden twilight, the fading sun painting wrinkles on the sidewalk like molten amber, and in that instant she felt as if a tornado had uprooted her sense of direction. Applause still drifted from the stage, mingling with the lingering jazz notes backstage, but the joy of triumphant cheers no longer reached her heart. Before her lay the glittering opulence of Las Vegas, towering buildings mirrored upon rain-kissed streets, but inside all she felt was chaos. She had once believed Dominic Vega was her steadfast anchor, the protector of her musical ambitions, the key to glowing spotlights on grand stages. Now, that dream had become invisible shackles, binding her to a sinister underworld, brimming with premeditated schemes. Memories of Dominic slapping pregnant Chloe replayed in slow motion across Roxanne's mind. etching themselves into the vault of her eyelashes. Each recollection twisted her heart involuntarily, as if every cell in her body screamed in rage at the injustice. She could not fathom how the man she loved, whose warm smile once lit her stage, could be so merciless. His hushed threat still echoed in her mind. "You will never leave this operation." Not just a cold warning, but an assertion of his absolute dominion, enough to strip her of freedom, trading her pure voice for silence and fear. Roxanne strode deliberately down the narrow street. Neon signs from the bars glowed in lurid hues, brilliant, yet artificial, as though mocking her. She recalled late-night rehearsals under hot stage lights illuminating her passionate face, only to face invisible punishment for daring to question him. Dominic's power had not only forced her professional loyalty, but also strangled her artistic soul, prematurely aging her dreams before they could bloom. She felt her hand tremble as she thought of secret contracts, funds funneled into phantom accounts, her unwitting role as his silent accomplice. Through drifting cigarette smoke and mellow bass lines seeping from a modest bar, Roxanne found Chloe in a shadowed corner. The place, with its dim golden lights, aged wood paneling, and the faint scent of leftover red wine, seemed to welcome two women carrying fractured hearts. Their eyes met across the haze, instantly recognizing shared pain and fragile hope. In that magnetic moment, words were unnecessary. One look carried profound solidarity. Roxanne's eyes glistened, tears pooling and spilling onto her lashes in droplets of shared sorrow and defiance under the fitful glow of bar lamps, an image of delicate strength. Silently, Chloe reached for Roxanne's hand, pressing it gently between her own, offering quiet reassurance. Without words, they made an unspoken covenant. They would stand together to dismantle the cruelty before them. Roxanne felt her heartbeat quicken, thoughts of the unborn child pulsing through her veins in urgent rhythm. She sensed the obligation to protect not just her voice, but her life's purpose, and hopefully, Chloe's too. As a mother-to-be, Chloe understood the profound value of truth and justice in a way that deeply resonated with Roxanne's longing for creative freedom. Their contrasting needs, maternal protection and artistic liberation, wove together into a fierce, unlikely alliance. Surrounded by the damp scent of aging wood and stale wine, Roxanne gazed up at the low-ceilinged bar where light flickered through shabby curtains. She pictured Dominic in his tailored suit, projecting impenetrable confidence, but behind his eyes, she sensed an unfamiliar apprehension. He knew his crimes teetered on the brink of exposure. Silently, she vowed, he cannot keep enabling invisible crimes forever. Squeezing Chloe's hand, she reinforced her faith in united strength. Two women, one driven by a growing life, the other by a burning artistic dream, were ready to face the impossible. As they left the bar, the street outside whisked them back into a noisy world under gaudy lights. But inside, both women glowed with newfound hope. They exchanged snippets of critical intelligence, late-night transactions, safe locations, names of insiders, building a shared pathway toward justice. A cold breeze slipped under the door, invigorating them with each breath. Their courage now defied fear. Roxanne allowed herself a quiet smile, something she hadn't done under the lounge lights. This was no smile of fear, but a smile of rebirth, the start of their journey to expose corruption and reclaim freedom. In the dark veins of Las Vegas, some souls seemingly lost to the spotlight still rise through solidarity and courage. Roxanne and Chloe, two women shaped by different pains, had become inseparable partners. They understood the dangerous journey ahead, yet they refused to retreat. For when women stand together, fueled by faith and maternal love, they can tear through evil's darkness and bring justice into the light. In the soft glow of the modern office, The computer monitor cast numbers that danced like an electric symphony across the screen. Jackson Cruz sat cross-legged at the desk, his eyes locked onto the data stream. Suddenly, he noticed an unusual flow of funds, millions of dollars, routed from a charitable organization called Heartbeat for Children, supposedly noble in purpose, were instead being funneled back to a credit card bearing the name Roxanne Lyle. His mind sounded an internal alarm. This is the missing link that could destroy this singer's dream. Jackson tensed, his fingers trembling as he jabbed at the keys, tracing the trail through intermediary accounts. Each click was like a needle piercing the carefully woven veil of deception crafted by powerful hands. As the layers of financial records peeled away, Chloe and Roxanne hovered beside him, hearts suspended as they witnessed the illusion shatter on screen. Names emerged from the haze of figures: Social Fund AB12, Shell Company Paracorp, Anonymous Account NGU12. Roxanne gently squeezed Chloe's hand, a small gesture, yet carrying a torrent of emotions: regret, fury, and a fragile spark of hope. In those fleeting seconds, they grasped the scope of the scheme. Not merely illegal gambling, but money laundering through fake charities to silence suspicion. Jackson paused and turned to face the two women. He pulled out a second USB, this one holding a recorded call between Dominic Vega and an overseas contact. Chloe's eyes shimmered at Dominic's cold introduction. "Prepare everything. Leave no trace before they even notice." His smooth, confident voice now sounded hollow and calculating over the speakers. Roxanne sealed her lips, each cold syllable a dagger to her heart, as she realized she had been unwittingly entwined in the plot, an integral pawn in his web. Waveforms appeared on the screen, the audio signal flickering as Jackson pressed play. The secrets of that discreet conversation washed over the room like a tide. Once the money arrives, destroy all records, then delete the call logs. The mocking laughter mixed with urgent whispering sent chills across Chloe's skin. She bowed her head, cradling her abdomen as though to steady the fierce emotional tremor within. Roxanne ground her teeth with rage. She felt betrayed to the core. From the stage lights to the midnight fund transfers, she had been manipulated beyond measure. In front of them lay the raw portrait of crime, each secret unveiled in its entirety. But the climax had yet to arrive. Jackson scrolled further and uncovered a supplementary file titled Post-Transaction Data Deletion Protocol. Dense with technical jargon, encryption procedures, even temporary access codes coded in bold fonts, it struck Chloe like an axe blow to her confidence. She, who once supported Dominic as a trusted advisor, now understood that she had unknowingly enabled his criminal deeds. Roxanne leaned forward, her eyes blazing with resolve. "We cannot let them walk away from this." The spark in her voice contrasted sharply with her usual fragile stage persona. She gripped both hands together so tightly her ring finger trembled, a sign of fear and courage intertwined. Chloe gently patted Roxanne's shoulder, and their eyes locked in quiet affirmation. Justice must prevail. The room held its breath as the three conspired in hushed unity. Jackson glanced at his watch. It was past midnight, and the hum of the air conditioning masked any outside noise. He opened a note-taking app and swiftly listed their evidence requirements: surveillance footage from the basement, original transaction reports, wire transfer receipts, and testimony from accounting personnel. Each item posed a challenge, but Jackson knew that without one single piece, their entire effort could collapse. Meanwhile, not far away in his opulent penthouse, Dominic Vega downed the last sip of bourbon. The glass touched his lips as the warm bourbon slid down his throat, momentarily dulling his anxiety. Yet as the drink emptied halfway, memories of Chloe's swollen hand from the slap flashed through his mind. He told himself, Chloe has to stay quiet, for her own safety, and for the baby. The internal tug between paternal affection and the hunger for power gnawed at him, an ache sharper than any physical blow. At that moment, Maggie decided to break from the shadows. Quietly, she picked up her phone and sent the pre-written text to Chloe. I need to see you urgently. It's important. Her fingers trembled, but her gaze was steadier than ever before. The corridor fell silent, save for Maggie's soft footsteps, bridging the gap between truth and deception, light and a night thick with conspiracy. Even Dominic, with all his influence, could not face these truths alone. In the hushed corridor, Maggie leaned against the cold wall and took a deep breath. She understood that speaking out could spark a major scandal, or end her career, maybe even her life. Yet she chose courage, for when the powerful oppress the weak through invisible force, only the bold can shatter that cycle. Thus, the story advanced slowly and stealthily, unstoppable. At the end of the hallway, the penthouse door cracked open, ready to welcome an unexpected ally, someone who would stand with Chloe to expose the crimes hidden in the dark. Under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, light refracted across the gleaming wooden table in cold shards, creating a multitude of glints like knives cutting through the air. Suspended motes of dust drifted slowly downward, as though time itself had stretched thin. In that moment, Dominic Vega's office, ordinarily adorned with expensive artifacts and European artworks, became unnaturally tense. The door burst open, and Chloe entered first. Her eyes were icy, her lips pressed into a firm line, and each resolute step echoed across the marble floor. Behind her, Roxanne advanced, her wavy hair catching the light, her face, once soft, now etched with determination. Jackson and Maggie followed, their expressions tight with tension, but resolute. All four paused at the threshold, breaths held in quiet anticipation, on the verge of bursting. Dominic looked up, ink still smeared on his hand from deleting files, astonishment flickering in his eyes. He hadn't yet closed the hard drive. The screen still read, deleting 45%. A forced smirk curved his lips, but his trembling hand betrayed his unease. His gaze swept across the unexpected visitors, people he thought he had outmaneuvered at every turn. Chloe stepped forward deliberately, her voice hoarse yet wordless. Her eyes commanded silence. A light tap on her phone, and she stepped back as a private screen illuminated with the audio file of Dominic's late-night call with international partners. His smooth, calculating voice filled the room. Do not leave any clues. Destroy all messages and files before dawn. The cold decree shattered the facade of elegance Dominic had crafted. In the ensuing hush, Roxanne stepped forward and placed a thick dossier onto the desk. The heavy file, under the chandelier's glow, revealed glaring false signatures and tarnished numbers, evidence of crimes inked in betrayal. Maggie and Jackson quickly laid out more proof. Fund transfer records, printed receipts, and surveillance images from the basement. Piece by piece, the puzzle of crime fell into place, freezing the room in frozen clarity. Dominic found himself trapped at the center of their confrontation, eyes darting from screen to dossier and back to his frozen face, a rising panic etched across his features. He tried to force a smirk, to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. His eyes welled with shame, veins pulsing on his forehead. He fumbled to remove his diamond ring, as though attempting to reclaim innocence, but the gesture only underscored his vulnerability. The loyal employees who once showered him with praise now stood silent in the hallway, their eyes glazed as they witnessed the collapse of the man who had given them standing. A few discreet journalists, invited by Chloe and Jackson, began filming, the small red lights of their cameras blinking, recording every tremor of a man who once believed he was untouchable. In that moment, Chloe ascended a small step in front of the desk, her voice ringing out in the charged silence. You used your power to conceal crimes, but today, justice speaks for us. Her concise words echoed, chilling those who preferred the cover of darkness. Beside her, Roxanne stepped forward, tears brimming, yet held steady, affirming their unity. We are here to end this era of oppression. No one can escape justice. Dominic lurched back in his leather chair, desperately seeking composure, but his form swayed unsteadily, his gaze fixed on Maggie, the employee who had once trembled uncovering illicit transfers. Maggie stepped up and handed Chloe a photograph of one such transaction, pride glowing within her. She had faced fear and chosen the light. Her long, dark hair framed a bowed head and quiet reverence before Chloe. We are ready. Moments later, silence was broken by a surprised shout of, "Bravo!" from one of the journalists. The applause spread, strong and abrupt, not for Dominic, but for the courage of the women and their allies. Their clapping resonated like drumbeats, heralding a new reign of justice. The diamond lights softened, illuminating faces filled with relief and unity. Dominic bowed his head, one hand gripping the nape of his neck as he trembled inwardly. His once commanding presence waned. He realized his throne had been built on deceit and criminality. His pallid face, glistening with tears and remorse, told the story. The once proud king of Las Vegas had crumbled into shame, his sins exposed like wounds that would not heal. Jackson moved forward, his tone calm and unwavering. Dominic Vega, you are officially under investigation for money laundering and financial fraud. Your assets are henceforth frozen. The words pierced Dominic's chest. He froze, with nowhere left to hide. Every lie, every crime, now laid bare under the unforgiving light. As authorities moved in to escort Dominic from the room, Chloe and Roxanne leaned against the crystalline wall, their gazes meeting in silent solidarity, soft breaths, steady heartbeats following the emotional upheaval. Together, they had authored the final chapter of this survival game, where justice and bravery triumphed over conspiracy and violence. Under the crystal lights, each refracted beam became a victory anthem, heralding a new era, where women find their voices and truth is no longer buried in darkness. The streets of Las Vegas gradually fell into quiet as night descended, yet inside the luxurious penthouse, the atmosphere buzzed with the echoes of a silent revolution. Chloe stood by the towering window, her hands gently resting on her pregnant belly, where a tiny life grew stronger with each heartbeat. She gazed out at the extravagant lights stretching across the horizon like sleepless stars, and in that moment, every piece of pain and betrayal seemed to dissolve, giving way to brilliant rays of hope. A soft breeze drifted in from the balcony, carrying the delicate scent of incense and offering a rare sense of peace after so many storms. In Chloe's heart, a powerful belief in new beginnings surged. She was no longer just a victim. She had become a trailblazer for truth and justice. Beside her, Roxanne quietly placed a hand on Chloe's shoulder, their eyes locking in a silent vow born of shared trials. Roxanne's delicate fingers trembled, yet radiated resolve, as though transmitting warmth and strength to Chloe, the expectant mother she had grown to admire. A soft smile curved Roxanne's lips, and her eyes glowed with hope. We did it, she thought, and both women felt deep within that their suffering had become the source of their resurgence. The room's lighting softened, reflecting off Chloe's smooth skin where the marks of that violent slap had now faded. She gently stroked her silk robe, contemplating the path ahead. Her unborn child would enter a world defined not only by the glitz of casinos, but also by love, honesty, and courage. Chloe realized that her mission extended beyond safeguarding her child. She had to unmask every hidden scheme so that those lurking in the shadows could never harm again. Roxanne stepped quietly toward the corner of the room where her guitar rested, a testament to her musical dreams. She brushed a thin layer of dust from its strings, then looked up at Chloe. That dream had once been silenced by Dominic's power, but now it felt revived. Roxanne exhaled deeply, recalling the evenings she had performed in a jazz lounge with a shattered heart, each note wrapped in fear and pressure. Yet standing alongside Chloe tonight, she felt liberation. Music and justice now walked hand in hand, ready to sing a triumphant anthem. Chloe turned, her expression filled with pride and emotion. He believed the casino, contracts, and money were the ultimate power. But he forgot one thing. Maternal love and the longing for freedom are unstoppable forces. Her words, soft yet potent, stirred the stillness of the room. Roxanne nodded, her heart ablaze with belief. They were not alone. In the darkness of Las Vegas, countless empathetic hearts stood ready to rise alongside them, ensuring that justice wouldn't remain an elusive dream. The clock struck midnight, marking the threshold between past and future. Chloe faced the large mirror, the light illuminating each determined feature, still bright and resilient despite all the wounds endured. She pressed a hand over her heart, where her unborn child's steady breathing offered comfort, and said softly, "We will not return to that darkness. This is only the beginning." With that realization, a fierce desire to continue fighting ignited in her. She would join Roxanne and their allies to gather more evidence, expose the hidden crimes, and ensure no one else endured their suffering. Roxanne seated herself at the desk, where illicit documents and transaction files lay neatly arranged. She spread her hands, running them gently over the papers like soothing old wounds in her soul. Ahead of them lay innumerable obstacles: Dominic's faction, covert threats, and even concerns for their own safety. But now, she was no longer alone. Chloe stood beside her as an unwavering pillar, and Jackson and Maggie, two inseparable allies, were ready to assist. The room was hushed, save for the hum of the air conditioner and the whisper of night breeze through a cracked window. Chloe and Roxanne exchanged a glance, no words needed. They understood the plan: to expand their alliance, seek support from human rights organizations and independent media, and break the silence of power with collective voices. They also resolved to share their story online, to amplify the message of women's unity and inspire others to speak out. In that moment, one could envision two silhouettes reflected in the glass: a mother cradling her beliefs for her child, an artist ready to sing truth into neon-lit streets. They were not only freeing themselves, they were lighting a path for those suppressed by violence and oppression. Their journey, Chloe's courage as an expectant mother, Roxanne's steadfast artistry, would become a guiding torch, ensuring the light of truth would never be extinguished. And so, the night in Las Vegas was no longer just an orchestration of money and hidden power. It became a melody of justice and courage. This chapter may end here, but the door to their future stays open. Will Chloe and Roxanne persevere through the trials ahead? Will Dominic Vega truly face justice, or is this merely the beginning of a deeper investigation? How will this sleepless city respond as truth emerges beneath its neon glow? If this story has resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next gripping installment. Don't forget to comment and let us know where and when you're watching, and share this story with your friends and family in the US to help spread the powerful message of unity and bravery. We can't wait to hear your story, too.